Okay, hello friends. Welcome to Cloud Institution, and today we are going to discuss about one of the very important topics, which is Jenkins. And Jenkins is the first job. The first job of the Jenkins, which is going to be a Jenkins freestyle job. Okay, so uh, if you want to go into the Jenkins, and this is what the Jenkins which I've installed in my local machine, which is localhost 8080. Okay, so as you know that the Jenkins, if you whenever you are installing Jenkins, the Jenkins will be installing in your local machine, and it'll be running from the port 8080. Okay, so if you're running from EC2 instance or any kind of a cloud providers, make sure that the security groups or the firewall has been enabled to to serve the request to 8080 port. Okay, then only the system, your Jenkins will work. Okay, so let's before begin to that, right? Like let's discuss what is Jenkins. Okay, so why we need Jenkins. So basically Jenkins is called as a CI/CD tool. Okay, so Jenkins is called as a CI/CD tool. Okay, so what is CI/CD tool? Means so CI/CD means the continuous integration and continuous deployment tool. Okay, so what do you mean by continuous integration and continuous deployment? Okay, so in a real time environment, right? So okay, for example, I have a three infrastructure. Okay, so three environment maybe. Okay, so one is so the first one is development and staging, and prod. Okay, so let's say for example we have these three environment. Okay, so these three different infrastructure for your application. Okay, so for example we have a Git repository where we store all our code, right? So let's say for example we have a Git repository somewhere around here. Okay, so somewhere around here. Okay, so this is the Git repository. Okay, so this is a Git repository. So in a team, okay, so let's say for example there are hundreds of people, 100 people are working, 100 people are working for this particular project. Let's say for example this can be the very big project. Okay, so for example, if any one of the person so is trying to commit his changes, so to the Git repository. Sorry. Okay, so as you can see here, so this is somebody is trying to access, um, trying to put some kind of a code to the repository. Okay, so whenever he push some code to the Git repository, I hope you guys know about the Git repository, right? So whenever somebody is push their code to the Git repository, so what this Git repository will be doing is that it automatically take so this kind of it automatically take this code, and then using the Git hooks, then it will try to push, it will try to deploy the particular code on development environment first. Okay, so as a first step, if you can see, that code will as first step that code will come to the development environment. It will try to deploy that particular code, and then it will test. you know so the testing will be going with the sequence of various stages. Okay, so it will test with the unit testing, and performance testing, and smoke testing, and all this kind of a testing will be keep on going on here. So once the testing is passed, okay, so we got some kind of a final result, that's called artifacts, right? So if you can get some kind of artifacts is nothing but so the output of this particular code. Okay, for example, if you're running for a Java code, the JRE file, the JRE file, the final output file, or any sort of this. Okay, if you're going for containerization, so the final container application, so that will be released, that will be created, that will be tested properly, and then once the testing is passed, okay, so now the next control will go from here to here. Next control will go from here to here. So next stage is going to be staging stage. Okay, so it's going to be this first it has been tested in the development environment. So the development environment will be having a lot of a lot of bugs or anything, so a lot of this infrastructure is completely a development environment, right? Like, so everybody will be deploying their code. Okay, so this environment has not been stable. So whenever we are going to the next stage, the staging, okay, the staging, the control will go and it will start testing all the changes over here. Okay, so what do you mean by staging? Okay, so staging is also called as a pre-prod. The staging infrastructure is also called as a pre-prod infrastructure. Okay, so what do you mean by staging or pre-prod infrastructure? Means it it has identical, identical structure, identical applications, application deployment. Everything will be very similar with the production. Okay, for example, if you are using a production environment, it's kind of a live, then the staging environment exactly will match with this production environment. Okay, whatever how many servers are there, how many applications are running, and what are the applications are running, everything will be have a copy of it over here. Okay, so as you can see here, so all the applications and everything will be having the similar copy with the production. Okay, so when the control will comes over here and it will test, whether all the applications are running properly over here. Okay, so then it finally gives the green signal, okay, saying that, hey, I just tested this particular code, whatever this guy has written is been tested, and this has been passed with the various stages. Okay, so now the control will go again to the next stage. Okay, now it's going to the production. Okay, so it's going to the production stage. The production stage, again, it will go and deploy it, deploy it, and it will do all the testings, the smoke testing and unit testing, performance testing. All the testings will be done over here. Okay, so and here we will be having the approval stage. Okay, here we will be having the approval stage. What do you mean by approval stage? Okay, what do you mean by approval stage? Before any kind of a code will be deployed to the production, all the outputs and all the test results, everything will be validated by somebody, some of the superiors. Then once the when superior is approved all the changes, so the control will be come down and it will into the deploy into the production environment completely, and it will be tested after that. Okay, it will be tested after that. Okay, so now everything is tested. The final artifact will be deployed to this production environment. So this is called CI/CD. What do you mean by CI? Means, CI means continuous integration. So what is continuous integration? So this guy is writing the code now. Okay, so what happens, if all the other members in the team is simultaneously writing the code and they are trying to push the particular code to the Git repository. Okay, so there are hundreds of people. Everybody is trying to send their code to the Git repository. So that is what called, so continuous integration. So it will try to integrate all the code, in the centralized repository. Okay, and after all the code is got integrated properly, with the pull requests or all the code approval stage and everything will be completed, then the code will be deployed into the development environment. Okay, then if the tests are passed, then it will come to the staging environment. Subsequently, the control will go to the production environment. So this is called a continuous deployment, because the use cases will be deployed from one stage to another stage, will be continuously moving forward. Okay, so this is what it is called as a continuous CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment. So as you can see, we have Jenkins as a continuous integration and continuous deployment tool. Okay, for this demo, we are going to create one of the very small job. Okay, so if you can see here, so I'm going to create a new items. So if you want to create a new job, or a new task for your items, you need to create a new items here. So as soon as you logged into the Jenkins, we also seen that, how to install Jenkins in your machine. So we already installed it in your machine. So let's create a new item. Okay, so we have different types of projects out there. Okay, so freestyle project, pipeline project, multi-configuration project, folder and multi-branch project, and organization folder. Okay, all these things are there. So for today, I'm going to create one of the project called cloud. Okay, this is a cloud institution. Okay, so project. So cloud institution project is my first project, which is going to be a freestyle project. Freestyle means it doesn't have any kind of a pipelines concept. Okay, so when I'm coming to pipeline, I'll be explaining to you what is the difference between freestyle project and a pipeline project. But for today, we are going to learn about what is a freestyle project. Okay, so freestyle project, and then click on OK. Okay, so the description can be anything, the test project, the test run. Okay, and now if you want to integrate a Git repository with your source code, and as a source code management, you can also use a Git repository. So we are going to have a separate session on this source code management option. Okay, so for today we are going to see one of the very simple concept. Okay, so the build steps. Okay, execute shell. So you have to choose execute shell. So because I'm using MacBook in my I'm using MacBook as my so the machine where where the Jenkins has been installed. So so this is completely about where the Jenkins is installed. So if the Jenkins is installed on Windows, okay, if your Jenkins is installed on Windows, you have to use execute Windows bash command. Okay, then you have to write all your bad command, then it's going to be working for you. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add a execute shell. Okay, so after creating executing shell, I'm going to give some kind of a very small command. Okay, I'm just going to give, okay, ls slash tmp. Okay, this is some simple execute shell command I'm going to give in order to execute from my local machine. Okay, so now I have this script. The script is there. I have something which has been created. Then I'm going to save. I'm going to do save. Okay, if you click on save, so then it looks like this. So your first project has been created. Okay, and then it's ready for the build. So if you want to build the application, so if you want to build your pipeline, so this is what kind of pipelines, right? So if you can build your pipeline, so the build will run and it will give you the output. Okay, as you can see here, the build has been successful. As you can see, it's showing the green color. Okay, so the build is finally created. So you can see the output. You can see the console output. What is the output is going to be? Slash tmp. What I've given is that I've given slash tmp ls slash tmp. So which means that it's going to show all the files under slash tmp. Okay, so now if you can go to my terminal, if you go to terminal, okay, so if you can give the same command like ls tmp, ls slash tmp, okay, ls slash tmp, so it's going to show me that all the files whatever is being created under this. Okay, so now shall we create one simple shall we create one simple if you want to change anything, right? For example, we have been in the previous place, like we have been in this place. We have run this output and everything. Okay, so if you wanted to edit the job again, please go back to the configuration tab. Click on configuration, configure tab, come all the way down. Okay, now before this I'm going to create one the simple folder. Okay, so mkdir cloud institution. Okay, cloud -institution. Okay, cloud institution is the folder I'm going to create under /tmp slash cloud institution. Okay, I'm going to create this folder. Then I'm going to make sure that I'm going to see that whether this folder is been available or not. Okay, so now if you can see this /tmp, okay, is the cloud institution ls space cloud institution. That folder is not been available. Okay, so no such file or directory. So now we are going to run this particular command, particular build, and we are going to run it. Okay, so save. How are you going to build it? Click on build now. Okay, build is got scheduled. Okay, see the build is successful. If it's getting green, which means that build is getting successful. As if you can go back to the console output, and you can see the output, you know, is creating mkdir temp cloud institution. Okay, so now let's go back to the, if you can see this, if you can see the list of files, you can see the cloud institution folder is got created, right? So now I'm going to do the same command again, ls/cloud institution. Then it's going to be telling that, so this particular folder is available now. Previously, when I give this one, it says that no such file or directory. Now this when I do this one, it's telling that cloud institution is available. Okay, so this is how we are going to run some kind of a commands. Okay, so this is how your build will automatically will be running in any of your infrastructure. Okay, so this is a simple build that can be executed in your local machine to perform any kind of actions. So if you have your Python code or Java application in your laptop, if you want to run it automatically through the Jenkins, then we have to use this kind of a mechanisms. Okay, now let's go back. Okay, let's make some kind of errors and see whether this build is getting failed or not. So now instead of giving ls, I'm just giving lss. Okay, so now this command is wrong, which I know. I wanted to make some kind of errors and show it to you how this Jenkins is giving you actual errors. Okay, so if you can try to create a build now. Okay, so build is scheduled. Now you can see now, so first two builds are successful, the second third build is getting failed. So the reason being, we have intentionally created some kind of a, okay, so yeah, so basically what it's telling is that the temp cloud institution is already a file exist, so that's why it is just giving me the error. Okay, so it's not been moved to one of the errors which we have tried to try to create. For example, if you go to configure now, and if you can try to see this, so ls ll is not been moved to this particular command because it has been broken over here. Okay, so it's been broken in this particular line itself. So the build is being popped out without being running anything over here. So that is the very important concept which you're going to see over here. Okay, so as we discussed, if any one person is pushing his code to the Git repository, that code will be tested on dev, staging, and prod. So all this kind of control infrastructure. If this code is not working in any one of the infrastructure, for example, if the code is breaking, for example, if the code is successful in dev environment, but the code is failed in staging environment. Okay, for example, if the code is failed in staging environment, then this particular code will be discarded. Okay, this particular code will be discarded, and then we'll be sending back to this guy saying that, hey, your code is wrong, please change the code, and this is not going to work for us. Okay, so in this case, what is the advantage of doing this one is that, so whenever you're running for a production, so you're not going to be deploying for kind of a faulty code, so which prevents your production live environments to be getting getting down, so getting down or going going out of your out of live, right? So if it is not live, it's going to be huge production loss. So in order to avoid this kind of a production losses, we have to be testing our code completely thoroughly, then only the code will be putting into the production. Okay, this is what something summarized that what is CI/CD and what is Jenkins and how to create a small simple job in Jenkins and all these things. Okay, so okay, thank you so much, and if you have any questions, please drop me out.